It's wonderful to see so many of you show up despite the heavy rains and the red alert. And to all the guests, in fact, Radhika has flown in specially, just came straight from the airport and she's headed back tonight. So special thanks to you. Devita, it's such a pleasure to have this opportunity to interact. And Geetha, I mean, what you're doing is so impactful. I can't wait to, understand more about some of the journeys that you all have had. The way we're going to have this interaction is we have some questions which can be extended to all of them, and then some are very specific to each one's journey. The first one I wanted to personally understand was being women in STEM. What are the kind of maybe, and if you haven't had any such experiences, great, but if you've had any prejudices or experiences that you've encountered, I would love to hear what that has been and share with the audience as well.
Sure.
You can go in any order.
I can go first. And first of all, thank you, Radhika, for managing to get me here. Thanks so much. And it's a real pleasure to be among wonderful women, so enthusiastic, entrepreneurial, and also highly unapologetically brilliant. I guess that is amazing. A round of applause for each of you, for being here and being able to be recognized by this forum as well. So I'm Geetha, founder and CEO of Niramai, as was introduced. So I'm basically a computer scientist, a pura techie turned entrepreneur. So if I want to talk about my STEM part, there's literally two parts to my career, right? The first part where I was a technical architect, principal scientist, department manager, or a PhD and that kind of thing. And fully in the last 6 years, more like, just going in front of the business guys, raising money and running. So let me first sort of stick to my first part of the career, where as a woman, first and foremost in college, you see a lot of women now in engineering, in colleges and so on, graduate and so on. But very few women go to the next level of like masters or PhD, and it's true for men also, but it's more rare for women, especially in science. So I remember, I was just two women, one of the women in a class of 120 or something like that. So it was very interesting, especially in IISc. I used to go, like, you have all this kind of, rigor with multiple classes coming together. So it used to be like 200 people, and then you sit there. And I come from a very traditional family, though my father was like pretty open. But in my mind, I even now laugh at it. But in my BE days, I never used to talk to my male classmate. It was crazy, I used to ask, oh, can you ask whether we have homework for tomorrow, kind of thing. But when I was pushed into this, all my barriers of gender that I had in my mind, this is something I realized again and again.
Yes.
All the barriers that we talk about as women, female, entrepreneur, tech, whatever, everything is here, right? And so I could sort of get over it. I had to forcefully get over it because, sometimes my friend used to take another class, so I used to be like alone in the 100, so you have to speak to people. That's how I got on over it, and so Indian Institute of Science is really my transformative, era, I should say. And then I went on to at CDAC. There we had many people, and then Hewlett-Packard Labs. And so very few women in research. I used to head the India labs with just 4 people at that time, and so here I had to go and present new ideas to international researchers. And that time, I think one thing that helped me was to think that I'm not representing myself. I'm not Geetha. I'm representing India. Just think about it. Like each one of you is representing your city, state, whatever. Because there's very few women who have done this, and you are one of them, right? So when you start thinking that I'm going there as India, suddenly you get so much power within you, and you get all the confidence that's needed, and you can just crack it. That's what happened to me, and that's what my Hewlett-Packard Labs thing taught me. And again, I can go on and on, but just one bit about the HP Labs thing is like the boardroom, as we call it, or the staff or extended staff kind of thing. So most of them are my male friends. So initially it used to be very difficult because when you're in research, it's all about idea. An idea starts with an I, right? So yes, there's a lot of ego and it's yours and that kind of thing. So I remember many conversations where I just get start to talk about my idea. Everybody tuck, shoot. Like, that because of this reason. Then I used to go back and think about this. Why they don't do it for others, right? You know, it's used to be usually for me. So I used to go back, do a lot of homework, you know, do the proof of concept also, small mini thing, and said it does work because here is like a prototype that's working. Everybody used to be silent. So I used to go that extra mile in the beginning, and I think that's also known, like you usually have to do double the work to be equal, so that I faced those things. And later, it's only in the initial part, right? Once you show that you can do it once or twice, then people will start trusting you, what you say, and so on. So it's been a great journey. That's my first half. I'll pass on the mic.
That's amazing. What you told me about your undergrad, your college days reminded me of Sudhamurthy's experience. Was the only student in a class, which of course, and she had there were no women washrooms even in her, at the time she went to college. Yeah, no, but it is true, and it is the case in many institutions where are, of course, still the minority in certain fields. But I think what you have really shared essentially is that we have to just leave the fact that we're women at the entrance and just enter the role or enter the kind of work that we're doing, wear the hat of what we're representing. I think that's an interesting insight. Devita, would love to hear your experiences as a woman in STEM, any prejudices that you may have faced.
Hi, nice to meet all of you here today. I look forward to interacting with you in the break. But in the that Radhika managed to get everyone in today's reign, like genuinely, I'm always so proud of her. I would say that, when people look at STEM industries and look at tech companies, one of the first things that they feel that this is a male-dominated industry or a man's domain. Well, business is business. No matter what product you sell, no matter what industry you're in business, and that's what you're there for. So any industry you choose to be in, you should not feel that, no, this is not a place where women belong. Because there are a lot of industries which are women-oriented, and there are more than enough men in it. So we should not return the favor and definitely feel that, listen, there is no barriers to entry on gender in that space. The second thing I would say that people assume that STEM or any tech business or something is very boring. That's an opportunity. When I entered the tech industry and I started my own company, I saw that the whole industry was a lot of competition amongst men of whose product is faster and who is bigger and who is more tech advanced or something. And it just became like this big contest of ego as opposed to really caring what the customer wants. So I could see that as an opportunity to say, you know what, it may seem like this very like dog-eat-dog, male-oriented industry. Great, maybe a woman can come in and change the norm. Maybe a woman can come in and say, you know what, we actually care for customers. We actually care to do innovation that people care for. We actually care to make a profit and take care of our people than just about like, tera valuation, mere valuation se zyada aaj kaise. So I think there's opportunity whenever something is boring, whenever something is very generic. I think there's opportunity to be the person who brings in change. And I think the opportunity is for women to bring in that change. The third thing, when you bring in that change, I would say for people who are in STEM and women who enter there, the negative part is that, of course, people don't take you as seriously, which I'm sure we've all heard a lot of stories of. But the opportunity there is that people tend to think that you are this small, cute, niche brand, and you're just there for the short term. You're just there for like a hobby or whatever terms that you hear for women's businesses. That's great, because what happens is then you're not on the competition's radar. So we take a lot of time to grow our business when all our competitors used to look at you as women-owned, small, cute, sizable little thing business, till we became like, I don't know, an 800, 900 crore company, and they're like, oh shit, they're actually this big. And because it's privately owned, we didn't have to publish this data until we really came out with big numbers. And there were, for example, a lot of Indian brands or Chinese brands whose business was maybe 200 or 300 crores, but they're all this talk in the market all the time. So it's a good thing when, as a woman, you're not seen as very threatening. You're not seen as someone who is an actual competitor. So you can quietly shut out all this noise and do your own work and grow. For a guy who enters in business, he's constantly watching around to see, you know, what his competitors think. They overestimate them. So there's more pressure on them to, like, you know, not fall back, etc. But I think for women, you know, sometimes we all look like all nice and sweet and cute sitting in our meetings. Just sit there, get information, use it against people, you know.
I love it.
What you don't know won't hurt you. Women are small but dangerous. And why not? You know, there's so much that you can actually gain from being different. There's so much that you can gain from being unexpected. There's so much you can gain from being a game changer. That I would say that don't look at industry ever that this is male oriented or there are too many men out there. So what? Great. Get in there, change the game, and with that change, your business will also be very innovative. And over a long time, you will be able to build. So I only honestly have more positive twists, because I do feel that don't be a boss if you have a victim mentality. You know, be a boss if you say, you know what, keep your sympathy to yourself, I'll find a way to handle a situation. So whatever the prejudice may have been, whatever challenges they may have been, till you don't over it, please don't talk about it. We don't want to demotivate young women by talking on struggles all day long, that they don't end up wanting to be in business, right? So tell that, okay, this is what we did, and this is the opportunity, and this is how we grow. So for all of you here who want to be in STEM or any male-oriented business or male-dominated business, don't forget to dominate the men.
Brilliant.
Okay, how can you beat don't forget to dominate the men? I think that's like perfect thing to take away from here. But thank you guys, thanks for coming in on the rain. And I have to say, I've been like haunting Radhika from last night. Barish ho rahi hai, will I get stuck? So I've literally flown out because the energy that she brings to everything she does is just phenomenal. So big round of applause to you. So phenomenal listening to Geetha, listening to Devita. I have a slightly different upbringing and I would say perspective from Geetha. I've kind of been a rebel without a cause for a very long time. It was very tough for my parents to bring me up, I think. I don't know how many of you have been that way, but you know, keep pushing the edge, pushing, till you really find a cause that you stand for. And for me, business has been that. I always wanted, what I couldn't get is what I thought I really was meant to have. When I graduated from business school, or when I got into business school, I went to the career center, and this was in the US. Went to the career center and I said, okay, who's paying the most? I was working in advertising in India shortly, for a very short span at Lintas, and went to the US for my MBA. And went to the career center. I said, who's paying the most? So, do likhe the wahan pe. There was Goldman Sachs and there was McKinsey. I said, okay, I have to work at one of too. And my career counselor tells me, but you have advertising experience. Why don't you look at Ralston Purina? They are coming in for a marketing position. And I'm thinking, yes, but I really want these two because I really want to get paid the most. And that was my motivation at that point. I landed up getting a role at Goldman, and it was a lot of hustle. And I went into the room. So for all of you who've gone through any of these interviews, you know, there was a Super Friday concept. So you'd walk in and there'd be about 80 other people sitting there, business school graduates, and sitting there waiting for their turn for the interviews to come. So there were 9 interviews in the day, and you go through all the interviews at that time. So I walk in and I see about 90% men and 95% Caucasians. And then there is me. And I sit down and I'm petrified. I have no idea what I'm doing there. I sat down and then they asked us all to move to a different room, and I stood up and I was wearing 6-inch heels, and I realized that I'm the tallest in the room. फिर मैंने सोचा कि यही है, मतलब really, मतलब it sounds really menial, but you know where you derive your energy from. I said, I'm the tallest. I'm going to stand straight and I'm going to fucking go and ace each one of these interviews. I swear if they'd not made us move to another room, I would have been like petrified in each one of my interviews. It worked. What is the lesson that I took away from that? You know, look for that one thing, whether it is animate, inanimate, abstract, otherwise, that gives you a leg up, no pun intended. And that's literally what I have done all my career since then. I think Devita said it best. She said it that, you know, your differentiation is your power, right? And sometimes that's it. When we were raising capital at Shop Clues, there were very few women who were going out in front of the investors. So the advantage that I had was that most investors remembered me. They remembered the founder, who was a woman. But I also went through a lot of phases where one very large investor, me and my co-founder went there, and I run the business, I know the numbers, I know the unit economics, and he'd keep asking us these questions, and he'd keep looking at my co-founder, who was the product and tech person. And I would answer, and he'd look back at my co-founder. फिर उसने 3 question पूछे, 4 question पूछे. उसके बाद I thought that this is not going to work. This is not an investor I'm going to be able to work with anyways. If he doesn't have the capability to look at me in my eyes and have a conversation with me, so I just sat back. It was a very awkward position for my co-founder to be in because suddenly nobody's answering the numbers and we didn't get capital from that guy, but it's a fact that exists till date. My head of category was also a woman at Shop Clues, and I remember going to another investor, same conversation about categories, etc. But this time we took a token guy with us, because just so that the investors don't feel out of place, that there are 3 women this side, so we had 1 guy with us. So you make it work the way it does. But I think what's common amongst everybody who's sitting here is that you go back, you think, Geetha went back and thought, what didn't click, right? And you go back and say, this is what I'm going to change. Now if I see mansplaining happening in any room that I'm in, I'm not afraid to say, stop. And it still happens. So STEM or otherwise, I think a loud voice, whatever your personality is, if you're taking a seat on the table, please have a voice. Speak up. The first time you'll speak up, you know, very few people will listen. Second time, a few more. Finally, more people will listen. They'll be forced to listen to you. And we've learned that lesson maybe the hard way, but maybe this is a lesson that just needs to be learned rote now. So that's it for me. But
That's wonderful. I mean, each of you have such very different perspectives. And of course, cheers to that. And I hope the audience is now to think of dominating the men and making your voice heard. And I love what Devita also mentioned, you know, take advantage of, you know, the assumptions and the prejudices. Don't let that, you know, hold you back. Instead, go charge ahead, taking advantage. I think that's brilliant for me as well. So thank you so much for sharing each of your stories. And Radhika, your story about Goldman just brought back my memories of my interview with Goldman. I went through 9 rounds of interviews, exactly 9. But yeah, so you took me back a little in time with that. But thanks for sharing that great story. So now I just wanted to, again, all of you are founders and of different companies, built and scaled large companies, and some of you not once but twice now on your way. What is your perspective of having a founder or not having a co-founder? Why did you choose one way or the other? You can start, maybe we can change the sequence. If you want, Devita, you can go first and we can just change the sequence a little bit.
Why would you have or not have a co-founder?
Yes.
Mike.
When I started View, I was just 24, and I had this idea that time, the tech industry in India, the consumer durable industry, and my dad was already in the PC industry, was very skewed towards international brands. The perspective was that the Indian brand has to be the cheaper alternative. The foreign brand is the good quality, high branded one. And this perception was there across cars and computers and banks or whatever it may be. Across the board, there was this perception that the Indian option is the cheaper, low-cost option. And I said, you know what? These foreign guys, they seem to be getting all the profitability. What are they doing so special? So I decided that, listen, it's time to learn at NME camp, and I went abroad, did my degree in business, really observed what it is that foreign brands do. And I came back and I joined the family business of computers. And I really felt that India had also shifted from being this very socialist economy to an economy that was growing with the target audience of what we called Henrys, high earner, not rich yet. It's a McKinsey term. So, and so I felt that there's an opportunity that to build a high-end Indian-owned brand. And that's when I started View Technologies. And I said, you know what, I want to blend the worlds of luxury and technology. Buying a handbag is so much fun, but buying electronics is a pain. So why can't I bring in experiences that I enjoy in as a woman in consumer products and bring that into the tech space? And so I started View at the age of 24 with this idea of blending luxury and technology. And first I worked closely with Intel, Microsoft, set up my lab, made my products, built my stores, did a partnership with Chroma, found a retailer, built all of this. And everyone said that this is India. No one's going to buy a high-end product here, especially made by Indians. And what you're doing is nice, but it's a niche market. Again, it's very small. But I was very clear that, listen, I do not know, growing up in a privileged family, I do not know the absolute pulse of the bottom of the pyramid, but I know the top of the pyramid and I know the aspirational audience. So when you're entering a business, you should, as much as you can, if the customer is similar profile as you, it's easy for you to understand how they think. So it took me about 8 years to go from 0 to 35 crores, just building my team, building my vendor base, building supply chain, etc. And while my family was, of course, supportive, but like, okay, fine, it's like this kind of thing that I'm tottering around in. And slowly, slowly, the market started to open up. Slowly, slowly, the team got stronger. Slowly, slowly, the brand got stronger. Slowly, slowly, I started to make profit. And by year 9, my dad joined my business. So now he is second generation. And my mom's best friend is there in the audience who knows my dad for like 60 years or something, and she's totally going to go everything that I said out here. So I'm really marking. No,
maybe he said
no. Okay. And it's interesting because people always have this negative perception towards family business. Maybe we've all seen too many episodes of Succession, but we think it's going to be like one big drama. But when my dad then joined the business and he was able to bring in his experience, which he had. You know, there's a lot of us young people come with enthusiasm, but sometimes we need people who bring in enthusiasm, experience. And many of his team members also decided to join on board. And they could create a good foundation for me and my team, who are all guns blazing on building a high-tech brand, and they came in with like knowledge of the taxation or the legal system or the logistics system, etc. in India. And then we blended it together, and then we grew and grew and grew and grew. And so the first 9 years, we reached about 100 crores. In the next 4 years, we reached nearly close to 1,000 crores. So the co-founder then kind of ended up becoming my dad, who's a family member. So I would just try to answer this question, that sometimes when you're doing something very unique that you believe in, don't feel the rush to get a co-founder if they don't have the same vision. Because when you have an idea that's almost very kacha, you know, you in your brain know how to mold it, how to develop it. Keep it small, but take your time to develop it till it becomes strong enough, big enough that you can bring in good people. Because when you have a new idea and other people have not tried it, you may bring a co-founder whose vision and thought is very different. And you can bring a family member in my situation, which I did, or you can bring a co-founder, bring whoever. But till you've yourself not said that, acha, now my business model is solid and I don't want anyone to change it, I don't recommend bringing anyone in. So there's a timing for everything in business and life. You know, just because you don't know accounting, or you don't know marketing, or you don't know supply chain or some area, you can always hire people. But don't make in a big rush somebody your co-founder or some very controlling investor till your idea has not germinated, till the seeds of your business that you've planted have not actually sprouted and actually shown what it is. Because then you will not be able to bring it back to the vision and idea that you have in your head. So my takeaway on this question, do you have to bring a co-founder? Did I bring one, etc.? When opportunities come and when your business is growing, everybody wants to be a part of it. And you will be surprised how many people within your own circle may want to be part of it, if not your immediate family. But till you have not been able to see your idea come to life, try and do it on your own, because it's not necessarily that a co-founder may have the exact same vision. If you want to do something which is completely unexpected, like how I had planned with View. So this is just my example. Everybody is different.
Of course.
I'm just sharing that these are some of the things that I did and it did work. So when, I'll always like a good idea that, I hear and I'm like, oh, maybe I should try that. So these are just personal examples. It's called the system of Gestalt, where you're, answering a question with your own example. And if you find it relevant for yourself, then why not? Happy to talk more about it offline with any one of you.
Absolutely, that was perfect. I think in your case, it made a lot of sense because you were targeting something which has never been done before. You took on the likes of Sony and built something much more premium. And you have created a space for, like you said, an Indian brand has always been perceived to be, the cheaper version of its luxury counterparts around the world. So kudos to you for having that thought to break this thought, break the clutter, break the idea and create a niche and create an example out of Indian brands can be luxury, Indian brands can be fantastic and great and have their own space in the luxury market.
So my experience has been absolutely the other end of the spectrum, and I might tell our story as well. So I believe that I know, in spite of and I'm sure it's true for all founders in here, that being a founder, being an entrepreneur, and then being a founder is an incredibly tough and lonely job. It just is. It's a fact. It seems, and we were having this conversation earlier, that we see so much of the happy stories about entrepreneurship, founders, unicorns, etc., कि हम भूल जाते हैं that how much work has gone into it, right? Devita also mentioned 8 years for you to kind of get.
Now, nearly 20 years.
now 20 years. But the first 8 years was slow, steady work
Yep.
at it, right? So for me, both my journeys have been slightly different. The first time around, it was a perfect storm. There were 5 of us who got together to start Shop Clues. And as luck would have it, we had 3 co-founders fall by the way on the journey, which also happens. Because life happens, right? Things happen. You grow with the company. Not everybody can grow with the company. There are fallouts, there are personal impacts that happen, there are professional impacts. Investors might decide that this is not the right person for this role. You need to kind of up-level the kind of talent you want for this. And that can be extremely nerve-wracking as well. So that is really what it is. But if you have one good co-founder who's building the business with you, I feel the burden can be shared. At Kind Life, which is my second gig now, and please go shop kindlife.in, and that's the only shameless plug I'll have there. But at Kind Life, my 2 co-founders there are 3 of us, and my 2 co-founders are people who have worked with me in the past. They both started their career with me immediately after business school and worked with me for 6 odd years before they went on to do other things in life. And then when we started working on Kind Life, I was very lucky to be able to build a dream team and get them back together. So while it might not be my father, it was people who I know well, whose work ethic I know well, whose working style I know well, and who are a true addition to the kind of qualities I would like to have in a co-founder. And I feel that works for me. It works for me to have people with me who can build the business in the way I want to be able to build that out. The vision is common, the execution strategy is common, the execution style is common as well. It's very similar to getting investors on board. It's the same question actually, that should you just bootstrap, or get investors? That's again different mindsets coming on the table. As an entrepreneur, as a founder, that's part of your job, that you're able to manage different personalities. So I am on the side that having a co-founder works because it lessens, or I won't say it lessens your burden and stress, it just helps you manage it better.
Absolutely. Looking forward to Geetha's.
It's actually an excellent question because it's a touchy topic for me, and I mentioned this to Radhika. I have seen the good, bad, and the ugly side of having a co-founder. So I started off, as some of you know, right? I was a techie and all of the good stuff, and then I suddenly lost 2 of my cousin sisters to breast cancer. I decided I have to do something about it. Started a small project in my lab, put a couple of team members, young chaps, and then guiding them overnight and so on. And it became a product, like a prototype and so on and so forth. Then I said, okay, I'm managing 25 other projects, how can I give the time? And so I told my senior management that I have to quit and I want to take this out and make this really happen. And that's when, started brainstorming. I put up the proposal, everything. I started discussing within this small team, and then I did find one of my program managers. I've worked with her for a long time as a team member, right? So I saw that we bring in a lot of complementary aspects. So we were brainstorming. I actually presented the business plan to her and said, can you, this is Nidhi, it's okay. Presented to her and said, what's your feedback and so on, because it had to be pretty confidential, right? I was trying to do within the organization before I even spoke to my management, and then it's just more like a bouncing board, right? You need to just talk your head out, right? That's mostly like that. And then I saw that she was pretty excited about the new breast cancer screening test that I was talking about, what the market size is, and I'd done some homework as well and so on. I saw that, over the weekend, she started sending me more links, and I saw that she's spending her own night times on it and so on, and I felt, okay, it's always good to have somebody it's like joint running is good. So I was trying to sort of formulate a team, and then I asked her, would you take up the marketing and the business aspect? She was very happy. So we initially said she's going to be a team member, just like the other 2 tech people I was going to bring out. Then more and more I saw her connect with, and we used to brainstorm, and suddenly both of us used to get excited, go to the board, right? And I really liked that fire in the room, if you will, right? And then I proposed to her, like, would you like to be my partner? Literally, I said, would you like to marry me? So,
That's really what it is.
yeah, it's exactly like that, right? Yeah, without the rose, though. And then it was fun, basically. All was good, 1 year, 2 years. Then what happened was, because it was a deep tech startup, and when we go to the customers, right, they always used to ask for me, like, to answer a bunch of questions, like she was saying. Like, there is only, it turned out that for most of the discussions, even whether it's business or tech, I had to go. And suddenly what starts happening is there's some kind of an insecurity that builds up, right? And you can't help it. It shows up as different forms. And this is the bad part of it. Then, yeah, I mean, like, she just quit, obviously, right? It gets little, and then like she said, there are also investors who are seeing the contribution of each of the founders, and there's a lot of other stuff that happens. So it is almost like a divorce, literally. It's, oh my God, it's one emotionally, it's one thing. The second thing is also the investors, they start looking at, oh, what did you do to throw her away? Boss, I'm here sticking on. She's the one who left. So just like 6 months of that ugly part of it, where without doing any mistake, I had to stand up for not and all the bad stuff that's happening to the company. Or nothing bad. I mean, I had to still continue the execution, make sure the team is all fine, and so on. Thankfully, we did pretty well. We came out very well, and I did get a lot of confidence from my investors. And even now, I'm so thankful they were there. They were extremely emotional moments for me. And my family was very, very happy, as in like supportive, and always be there, was there as well. So now it's been like 4.5 years since I've been running the company alone with wonderful leadership team. And I guess everything happens for good. We now have like a single, like, if you hear Narayan Murthy talking about, right, they always talk about there should be, buck has to stop at one place. You of course can have co-founders, but there should always be that clear indication of who that
I do want to add to that. Exactly, that's right. As the CEO, the buck stops at you. You can have co-founders, they can share your pain, they can share your work, but as the founder, it stops at you. There's just one person who can be at the helm of the ship.
Absolutely, and have that when you're actually bringing in. It's very, in most cases, it's very clear, right? And it's not like a boss, but as a founder, you've thought through this so much, nothing needs to be written out, right? Even now, any exigency, I get a call, and it somehow, only I seem to know the answer. And it's true for each one of you co-founders. You can think about several, or founders, right? Where you can think about several instances. So this even now happens when there's always a new, because like she said, we are trying to do something very new, nobody else in this world has done. So I keep telling my team, whatever you're doing, even if it is difficult, it doesn't mean you're bad. It's just that each one of us are treading a path that no one has ever walked before, be it tech, be it product, be it regulatory, be it clinical, be it sales, be it marketing. Everything is new. And so it's fun, right? So it's okay not to know, ask, and let's brainstorm. So this is something I do. So like again, some of them said, once you start becoming known, and the product is known, you have many people who have to be co-founders with you. Many people come in. And so far, I think I've learned the hard way. But still, some of the investors do ask, are you a single founder, blah, blah, and don't get me wrong, what happens if something happens to you? So I'm actually thinking the family way. That's easy, right? So not my husband, but maybe my son is just now become an engineer. Why not right?
Yep.
So you get the young blood. So whenever an investor brings this in, I said,
Yeah.
don't worry, I have a son. He's already, initially worked as an intern in my thing, so he can pick up if something happens to me.
Yeah.
It's hard.
But
We have
it's
to
so
say it.
interesting. On this panel, we've had, different stories of co-founders. One where the father, which is brilliant. I haven't heard that before personally. Radhika, who's had two occasions where she's partnered with co-founders and other team members. And it is a very well thought through and choice she's made, and it's worked out well. And in the case of Geetha, of course, she's had a bittersweet experience, or more slightly experience, which has been a learning experience, I would say. So it's great, and you have all perspectives. In fact, there are so many stories of the very early stage where startups have had trouble with the co-founders, and they've gone separate ways, and the startup has also sometimes not really seen the full length of its journey. So
if I can add one,
please do.
as a think of it like an advice, is co-founders, it's always important to, they say co-founder agreement. Like one of my mentors suggested, said, no, we are never going to fight.
Oh, yeah.
We're never going to fight. We're going to be like forever thing. But it's very important.
It's critical,
For
yeah,
example,
absolutely.
They will have shares and obviously you have split it. You need to make sure that you have it in writing. What happens if somebody quits? You please say that the other person's unvested or reverse unvested
Yes.
will come to you. Because
yeah, it's almost like I was
hopefully
just thinking of a
but for me, I struggled a lot about it. 4 years I had to really prove myself. And it's not like I didn't ask, or rather, yes, I didn't ask because they were supposed to give it to me. But then they were already saying, you did the wrong thing. So hopefully this is not recorded and it's not going to go on the web.
It's on the wife's website.
Okay.
Just kidding.
So anyway, but it took me 4 years because now the new investors started, what is this? Where is this sitting in a, employee welfare trust and so finally, of course, I got it. But, it's better to have it in the writing so you don't have to fight with your investors to get your own shares back. This is one piece of advice.
Absolutely, I second
Though
that.
You're the bestest friends, anything can happen in life.
Even
So
if it is your own family members, I don't know if Devita, you had it to do it, but in general, even if it's your own family members who are joining at the early stage, it's good hygiene to have your documentation in place.
Otherwise, you'll give it to your investors. Why? Yeah.
So thank you again for sharing this. I want to direct the next question to Radhika. Radhika, you've obviously been India's first woman unicorn founder, and you've seen Shop Clues. And yeah, India's first woman unicorn, guys. That definitely requires a thundering applause. What are the lessons that you've learned at Shop Clues that you have been able to implement at Kind Life?
Oh my God, it needs a book in itself.
Maybe. You have a flight ticket tonight.
I have a flight ticket, absolutely right. I think
maybe top 2 or 3 which you think would be
I'll
most
give you
relevant.
2 or 3 things, mantras that I kind of live by, right? First woman unicorn founder at Shop Clues. That's an introduction that I get a lot of times. But I think what doesn't get talked about or is just an underlying conversation is that it was an effing roller coaster ride, right? There are massive highs and there are massive lows. We talked about co-founders. My co-founder at Shop Clues was my then husband. It landed up in a divorce. Lots of things happened. I think what worked for me at Shop Clues and what continues to work for me at Kind Life is a very simple mantra that I have, which is to just show up. It sounds extremely simple, but it is the best thing that I learned and the best advice I give to anyone. There are good days when you just think that you can just take a couple of days off, take 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, and work will be on autopilot. Please show up at that time. And there are bad days when you literally want to get under your dining table or a table like this, just nobody can see who's under that. that they also crawl out and show up. I think as a leader of an organization, your team looks at you to reflect the mood. And it is your job when you're building an organization that you are literally their parent. And it is very important for you to be there, for them to be able to see you. And I've invested in a lot of startups as well, and I see when things start going sour or south, basically founders just vanish. They stop coming to office, they stop taking calls, etc. And you can't do that. And you literally can't do that. And I think that is the biggest lesson I learned, what I did right, and that keeps me holds me in good stead. I think the next thing that I learned, and I'll keep this one short, but very important, seasonality hai. I don't know how many of you work in retail or some kind of a brand. There you go. You know what seasonality is, right? There you go.
Even everywhere.
Things will go up, things will go down, things will go up, things will go down. And that's the same it is in our startup world, especially in consumer technology, any kind of technology. Right now is, as they call, a frigid winter. That means nobody's getting funded. But I can promise you in another year or two, it'll get better.
It'll be raining again.
So adapt yourself, adapt your business to the kind of environment there is. Don't get pushed around by your investors, by other stakeholders. Hold true to what your vision is, but don't be rigid either. And all of these are good words to come out. When you actually have to do it, it sounds tough. I've been saying that I will build a beauty website so far, and now I'm doing something else. That's fine. That's perfectly all right. Keep yourself flexible to be able to think about the changes that can possibly happen. And don't be anal about the kind of ownership that you have. Different advice for different people on the panel. But from my end, I strongly believe that especially those of you who are raising capital from private equity, from VCs, everything can be managed at the end. The most important thing is to survive in the winter and to thrive in the summer. Thanks.
That's wonderful advice. I think it makes sense. Just to show up, I think, is the biggest challenge sometimes. I realize how time flies, guys. I'm sorry. I have so many questions I'd like to ask, but I'm going to make this quick. Devita, you have built a brand which is worth thousands of crores, like you shared, and that's no ordinary feat, so it's incredible. But what was one of your most memorable challenges that you overcame in this journey? Waiting with the bated breath.
Let me talk about my challenge from this morning.
Okay.
Because in business, as she said, and she reiterated it, every day is a new challenge. It's like playing Wimbledon on a daily basis or something.
This is fresh off the oven.
So every day is a new challenge. Challenge of the day. We should make a hashtag COTD. Because as women, you'll have a new challenge every day. Challenge of the day was, yesterday we had this massive, really big, our biggest television launch of the year, which is a 98-inch TV for 6 lakh rupees. We announced, our fantastic business numbers. We announced that, 80% of our business comes from large-size TVs, and we've done so well, etc. And Amazon is one of the retailers in that, and we said, why don't you also come for this launch, etc. And they were very excited because, I think for people always associate any event or anything happening in Bombay very glamorous and cool. So they were really excited, this is going to be like this very cool, glamorous launch. I'm like, of course, it's familiar, it's viewed, it's Bombay women. We know how to make something interesting. So yeah, come on board, not a problem. And we had this big launch, big stage like this, TV, numbers, press, etc., etc. And my team and I were really excited. We had like interviews all day long, and we had, bloggers and media and all these people coming. I was really on a high. And then at some 11 o'clock at night, I saw the first story that came out, and it said that View is trying to gain a foothold using Amazon, backed by Amazon or something. And I lost it. I literally lost it because I'm like, listen, they are the ones who came to us. We've sold 40 freaking lakh TVs. We know what we're profitable, we're debt-free, we're growing. And they are the ones who we called on. This was my launch. And I just, in spite of this being my 41st launch, I still had to fight this stupid stigma that I need some big white guy to save me. I don't need a big white guy to save me. I can be a small brown woman and do this on my own. And unfortunately, there was all drama back and forth going on of the way they downplayed and underplayed what the media decided to write, which was just so freaking unfair. Homegrown brand, backed by them, like this is like claiming so-and-so, stressing to be profitable. I'm like, bro, do you even know how much profit you made? In your whole life, you won't make it. It's just frustrating that in a country like India, we have, amazing forums like Radically Yours, who are working hard to constantly change stereotypes. But still, being young, being a woman, and being Indian just somehow puts you on a second rung to everything else. Now, is that going to stop me? Hell no. Thank you. But you just have to know that whatever is the movement that's happening here today, however big you become, every day is a challenge. Every day someone is going to put you down. Every day someone is going to try and work on biases and stereotypes. And every day you have to get pissed, allow yourself to get pissed, and then pick up the phone and say, if you don't change that story right now, I'm canceling your entire business. And so that by morning they had to freaking fix it, which was, I don't know what was going on out there. But I'm really sorry to say this, but it's a big country. We've grown from a very slow, socialist, traditional, conservative mindset. We're all very fortunate that we're here today, that the only challenge that took us to come in here was maybe a logistical one. It's the responsibility of all of us here to change the name of entrepreneurs, Indian women entrepreneurs, and every day will be a challenge. And I hope that for the next generation, when they read stories, they will say, Amazon needed help of an Indian woman-run company to get their business started. So, on you girls.
I guess, guys, we have run out of time, but there's just been such a powered panel. So many takeaways. It's hard to really summarize because every single thing is a takeaway, to be honest. So thanks to each of the panel members for making this very thrilling, full of knowledge-packed, and a lot of good and stories, and making it very interesting and relevant for the audience. Radhika, again, thank you for bringing such a wonderful panel together. I'm happy to have been a part of this panel. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to the wonderful panelists.